What is up, YouTube? The crypto market is spiraling because of the SEC announcing their postponement of the ETF ruling for Bitcoin. So today I just wanted to teach you a little bit about what that means and what an ETF is in the first place. So with that, let's hash it out. Oh, and by the way, before we get started with ETFs, if you want to build your knowledge, boost your cryptocurrency gains, and join the movement, definitely smash that subscribe button and hit the bell notification so that we can hang out every single week because I post new videos all the time. Let's get started. So what is an ETF? An ETF stands for Exchange Traded Funds. And I like to think of it as a blend between a traditional index fund and a stock. So an index fund is basically a mutual fund that lets you buy a diverse mix of stocks within a popular indice like the Dow or the S&P 500. And the stock, as you know, is a share of a company on the open market. So what makes an ETF special is that it's sort of the best of both worlds for those two different types of funds. An ETF is basically a basket or a group of assets or securities that you can buy through a brokerage, just like a stock. For example, a technology company ETF can be a collection or a basket of different diverse technology company stocks that you can sort of buy all at once as a collective. So it's a lot like a mutual fund in that way. You're buying a diverse collection, but you're really only buying one ETF fund. But you can also have something like that for a commodity. So a gold ETF, on the other hand, allows you to buy a diverse range of different gold assets share by share. So think about it this way. What makes an ETF super valuable is that in different commodities like oil, for example, if you want to invest in oil, it's not really practical for you to just go out and buy like 5 barrels of oil and keep it in your apartment until it goes up in value and then try and sell that. You can't store it, it's not safe to store it, it's impractical. But if you use an ETF, you can buy an oil ETF and take advantage of your thought like, hey, oil might go up in price over the next year or 2 years, whatever. You can buy into oil as a commodity without having to store it. So you can buy an ETF which is representative of a share of a bunch of different oil assets. So you're essentially buying a diverse bucket of assets of a certain group. And that's really all an ETF is. It's really like a bundle or a basket of assets that allows you to buy into in as small or as large a quantity as you want, assets that are either hard to get, hard to store, impractical to buy, whatever, all those types of assets you can buy through an ETF. So now for the big question, does Bitcoin really need an ETF? And why is the market exploding because this ETF got postponed? Now, the reason for that is really market hype. People have read so much about a Bitcoin ETF and there's been so much excitement about a Bitcoin ETF without really knowing exactly what it is and what that means for the market that people hear, oh, the ETF got postponed. They may not even know what that means per se, but they get kind of freaked out because the media is talking about it. People are tweeting about it. It's blowing up all over the web, and so people are selling and panicking and freaking out. You know, we've talked about it on this channel before, panic selling happens a lot and it causes serious effects in the market. But in reality, do we really need a Bitcoin ETF? And the answer is really kind of yes and no. We do need a Bitcoin ETF just for the market health, in my opinion, because I feel like so many people have put so much stake in this ETF that they're gonna sort of they're losing faith without this going through. I do think it would help the market. It would help people feel comfortable. It would put Bitcoin into new markets. It would make it more accessible for people who just don't really know what they're doing. I get that. And it's a vote of confidence from big money markets to put Bitcoin into a traditional structure like an ETF. A Bitcoin ETF would help ease the tensions. It would help put people's minds at rest a little bit on the tumultuous time we've had in the Bitcoin and crypto markets at large. It would also bring more legitimacy to Bitcoin and bring it into big money markets. But Bitcoin will succeed whether or not an ETF happens. We're gonna be along for the ride for all the bumps, the highs, the lows, no matter what, and Bitcoin will succeed with or without an ETF. I mean, if you really think about it, one of the cornerstones of Bitcoin as an asset, as a technology, is that it can be transacted peer-to-peer. It can be exchanged peer-to-peer in virtually real time, without an intermediary, without having to be guided by some sort of company or third party. That's the whole point. So why would we want to put Bitcoin as an ETF where it would basically just be guided by a third party, and it doesn't really need that to get the exposure? It's easy enough to buy Bitcoin already. It's easy enough to store it if you do your research and you make good security decisions. Buy a hardware wallet. I'll link the videos above. And it's not difficult for you to exchange it with your friends or exchange it with someone on the open market who wants to buy it from you. So that begs the question, why do we really need an ETF to exchange Bitcoin in a greater market? It's already accessible enough. And the same reasoning behind why you'd want an ETF for oil or for gold doesn't really ring true here, because Bitcoin's not hard to get. It's not difficult to store if you do your research. It's not like huge or impractical. You can buy it in fractions already. You can buy as little or as much as you want. You can't really go and just, get a cup of oil and store that in your home. So we don't really need an ETF. It doesn't need it to be successful. So that is one thing that I think people put too much stake in this ETF. In my humble opinion, I think if we have to have an ETF, I think a more valuable ETF would be a crypto market or crypto market wide ETF, where it has sort of a collection of diverse different crypto assets that experts or even a panel put together into an ETF, almost like a mutual fund that allows people that don't want to do the research, that have no clue what they're doing, that don't want to worry about storing their crypto, they can still buy into the movement. I think that would be amazing, because it would allow people of all walks of life that may not even want to deal with all of this to buy into this movement. And I think that's a good thing for the market. But the Bitcoin ETF is overhyped. It's not necessary for the success of the institution that is Bitcoin. Rather than a Bitcoin ETF and really fighting to the death to try and get this through, I think the time and energy and resources that we're putting into this would be better invested in educating about Bitcoin, teaching people why Bitcoin matters, teaching about how it works, teaching about the extreme value that Bitcoin holds to our future. I think that is a better use of this time and energy than pushing for an ETF, because Bitcoin will succeed, but it does need adoption. And adoption really comes from education and enabling people to join this movement with us. So if you're watching this channel right now, thanks so much for watching to the end of this video, first and foremost. Second of all, make it a point, if you know how this stuff works, teach someone else. If you don't know how this works, keep watching videos, educate yourself, and then educate others. That's how this movement's going to be successful, and that's how Bitcoin is going to reach that peak level of adoption that we're all looking for. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Check out these other videos. I will link them here, and I will see you guys soon. Goodbye.